Get out until you apologize to my lover, she screamed. I packed a bag and left without a word. Next morning, her father's panic call. The trust alert fired. Tell me she didn't actually kick you out. She did. And the 30-year-old legal structure I built just activated. Automatically. My name is Griffin Harding. I'm 53 years old. And for 30 years I've been a commercial real estate developer here in Portland, Oregon. Started with a 4-unit apartment building at 23, borrowed to the hilt. Now I control 42 properties across 3 counties, worth approximately $80 million. I didn't build that by being impulsive. I built it by being patient, strategic, thorough. Same qualities that made me successful apparently made me boring in marriage. Simone and I met when she was 23. I was 27, already on my 3rd building. She saw ambition in me. Her father, Leonard Cross, saw stubbornness. Both were right. Leonard owned Cross Development, the largest residential construction firm in the Northwest. When I married his daughter, he made it clear I was marrying up. Country clubs, charity galas, summer homes, that was their world. I came from a 2-bedroom apartment in Northeast Portland. But I had something Leonard respected. I knew how to build and protect what I built. When he suggested creating a family trust, I didn't just agree. I studied trust law for 6 months and helped design a structure so airtight that even Leonard was impressed. The Harding Cross Family Trust had provisions nobody thought we'd need. Article 7, Section 3 specifically addressed what happened if primary beneficiaries violated behavioral covenants. Leonard insisted. Better to have guardrails nobody needs than need guardrails nobody has. Simone signed everything without reading it. She was pregnant with Lydia, focused on nursery colors, trusting the men in her life had everything handled. That was 25 years ago. 25 years of building, providing, protecting. 2 children, Lydia, now 25 finishing medical residency in Seattle, and Owen, 22 at University of Oregon. A home architectural magazines wanted a feature, a marriage that looked perfect from outside, but providing stopped being enough somewhere along the way. 3 weeks ago, Owen called from Eugene, voice tight. Dad, I need to tell you something. That's when I learned about Jasper Crane. 39, self-proclaimed brand consultant with a Sanskrit wrist tattoo and a LinkedIn full of inspirational quotes. Owen saw them together at a restaurant. Not business lunch together, but hand-holding, kissing in the parking lot together. I thanked Owen, assured him it wasn't his burden, and spent 2 weeks doing what I do best, preparing. I didn't confront or rage. I documented, consulted attorneys, quietly activated legal mechanisms dormant for 25 years. Now, standing in my living room with my wife screaming and her lover smirking, all that preparation was about to pay dividends. I'll be gone by morning, I said steadily. But Simone, you should know something. She crossed her arms, defiant. What? You should have read what you signed. I turned and walked toward the stairs, ignoring her confused expression and Jasper's nervous laughter. By morning, she'd understand. By morning, everything would become very clear. I didn't go far that night, just to the Marriott downtown, 17 floors up with a view of the city I'd helped build. Couldn't sleep, didn't try. Just sat by the window watching car lights streak through the rain and thinking about the last time Simone had actually looked at me like I mattered. Couldn't remember. That told me everything. At 6 a.m., I drove back to the house. Simone's car was gone. Probably stayed at Jasper's place or wherever she told herself she was reclaiming her independence. The house was quiet, almost respectful in its silence. I walked through rooms I designed, touching countertops I'd selected, remembering when this place represented everything we were building together instead of everything that had fallen apart. I went to my office, unlocked the safe, and removed the documents I prepared. The original trust agreement, the property deeds, the transfer protocols. Everything Leonard and I had structured 25 years ago. Everything Simone had signed without reading. I placed my house keys on the kitchen island, right next to the coffee maker she'd used every morning for a decade. Didn't leave a note. Actions speak louder than words, my father used to say, usually right before he'd disappoint us again. But this time his saying fit. My phone rang at 7:43. Leonard's name on the screen. Griffin. His voice was tight, controlled, the way it got when he was trying not to explode. I just got an alert from the trust management system. Property Transfer Protocol Section 9 has been activated. Tell me Simone didn't actually kick you out of the house. I leaned against my truck in the driveway, watching morning light break through the clouds. Leonard Cross, my father-in-law, sounded older than his 73 years suddenly. Tired. She did, I said simply. Last night. Told me to get out until I apologized to her lover. So I got out. Silence on the other end, the kind that's full of calculation. Leonard didn't get to where he was by reacting emotionally. He was doing the math, running through the legal implications, probably pulling up the trust documents on his computer right now. Jasper Crane, Leonard said finally, not a question. I heard rumors 3 months ago. Hope they were just country club gossip. They weren't gossip. And you activated the protocol. Still no emotion, just statement of fact. I follow the trust provisions we both agreed to, I replied. Article 7, Section 3, Behavioral Covenant Violations. Primary beneficiary who forces grantor removal from primary residence forfeits beneficiary status, pending trust board review. You wrote that clause yourself, Leonard. Another pause. I could hear him breathing, the slight wheeze he got when stress hit his chest. His doctor had warned him about that last year. The board review, Leonard said slowly, consists of 3 trustees. You, me, and Harold Patterson from the law firm. That's correct. Harold will vote however the legal framework dictates, which means this comes down to you and me. Leonard's voice had shifted now. Not father-in-law anymore. Business partner calculating exposure. What do you want, Griffin? I don't want anything, I said honestly. I want to protect what we built. You taught me that. Family assets stay in the family, but family members who violate trust don't get to benefit from it. Those were your words. She's my daughter. For the first time, Leonard's voice fractured slightly. I know. And she's my wife. Was my wife. I corrected myself. But she made a choice last night, Leonard. She chose a 39-year-old brand consultant with a Sanskrit tattoo over 26 years of partnership. She can live with that choice. But she can't make that choice and keep the benefits of what I built. The line went quiet again. Somewhere in the background, I heard a woman's voice, probably Diane, Leonard's second wife, asking if everything was okay. I need to talk to Simone, Leonard said finally. Don't do anything else yet. Give me 24 hours. I'm not doing anything, Leonard. The trust is doing what it was designed to do. Automatically. That's the beauty of good legal architecture. 24 hours, Griffin. Please. I looked at the house one more time, the place where I'd raised my children, celebrated birthdays, believed in futures that no longer existed. She has my number, I said. But the clock on the protocol started last night when I vacated the premises. 24 hours won't change the legal mechanics already in motion. I hung up before Leonard could respond. My phone immediately buzzed with a text from my attorney, David Rosen. Trust alert received. Standing by for instructions. I typed back, let it run. No interventions. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, understood. This would get complicated. I sent back one word, good. The coffee shop on Burnside had terrible coffee, but excellent Wi-Fi, and booth seating where nobody bothered you. I sat in the back corner with my laptop, and 3 manila folders I've been building for the past 2 weeks. Called them my insurance policies. David Rosen, my attorney, slid into the booth across from me at 9:30. He didn't order coffee, just opened his briefcase and pulled out a yellow legal pad covered in notes. Simone called my office 4 times this morning, David said, adjusting his glasses. Said you've locked her out of the trust accounts, and she can't access household funds. I haven't locked anything, I replied. The trust provisions locked automatically when she violated behavioral covenants. I'm not the one who activated this, David. She did. David nodded slowly. He'd been my attorney for 12 years, handled everything from property acquisitions to contract disputes. Never seen him rattled. Her attorney, Sharon Vickers, already sent a demand letter. Claims you're weaponizing the trust for revenge, that it constitutes financial abuse. I opened the first folder and slid it across the table. Bank statements, credit card records, transfer receipts. Simone withdrew $43,000 from our joint account over the past 6 months. Small amounts, nothing that would trigger alerts. Spent on trips to Seattle, hotel rooms, shopping sprees. I have receipts from places she claimed were business networking events. David flipped through the pages, his expression unchanging. This shows financial impropriety, but not necessarily grounds for. Second folder, I interrupted. He opened it. Inside were printed emails, text message screenshots, calendar entries. All from Simone's iPad, the one she left logged into our home network. Nothing encrypted, nothing hidden well enough. This is her correspondence with Jasper Crane going back 14 months, I said quietly, including messages about using trust funds to finance their future together. She told him I'd never notice because I was too busy building things to pay attention to anything real. David read for a solid 3 minutes without speaking. When he looked up, his expression had hardened. Griffin, how did you obtain these communications? They were on devices connected to my home network. I'm the network administrator. I have legal access to traffic on my own system. I checked with a different attorney before pulling this trigger. Knew my ground. And the third folder? David asked. I opened it myself. Jasper Crane, 39 years old, divorced twice, currently being sued by a second ex-wife for unpaid child support. He owes $47,000 in back payments. His brand consulting business is 3 months behind on office rent. He's not a successful entrepreneur. He's a con artist who saw a wealthy woman with access to family money and played the role she wanted to see. David studied the background check, the court documents, the financial records my investigator had compiled. This is comprehensive. I build for a living, David. I don't build anything without understanding the foundation first. Jasper's foundation is sand. What's your play here? David leaned back, studying me. You want to use this to pressure Simone into a quick settlement? No. I said simply. I want Leonard to see who his daughter chose over her family, over her children, over 26 years of partnership. Then I want the trust board to make their decision based on facts, not emotions. My phone buzzed. Text from Lydia, my daughter. Dad, Mom called crying. Said you're trying to take everything from her. What's happening? I showed David the message. He winced. The children are going to get pulled into this. They already are, I replied. Owen's the one who told me about the affair. He saw them together, watched his mother betray his father. Now Simone's trying to make herself the victim. I typed back to Lydia. Can we talk tonight? I'll explain everything. Love you. The trust board meets in 6 days, David said, checking his calendar. Leonard will push for reconciliation. He'll try to find a middle ground. There is no middle ground. Either beneficiaries follow the covenants, or they don't. Either the trust means something, or it's just expensive paperwork. I closed the folders. Leonard built those provisions because he understood human nature. He knew people make terrible decisions when they think they're untouchable. Simone thought she was untouchable. And now? David asked. Now she learns what foundations feel like when they shift. Leonard showed up at my temporary apartment Thursday afternoon. Didn't call ahead, just appeared at my door looking every one of his 73 years. His face was gray, eyes tired behind his glasses. Can I come in? He asked, voice rough. I stepped aside. The furnished rental was generic, corporate housing for executives between assignments. Beige walls, rental furniture, nothing personal. Leonard looked around like he was cataloging evidence of my reduced circumstances. Coffee. I offered. Bourbon if you have it. I didn't. Water's the best I can do. He waved it off, sat heavily on the couch. For a long moment, he just stared at his hands. Hands that had built a construction empire, signed contracts worth hundreds of millions, held his daughter when she was born. I talked to Simone. Leonard said finally, not looking at me. She admits the affair. Says it's been going on about a year. Claims you were emotionally absent, that you prioritized work over the marriage. That's probably true, I admitted, sitting across from him. I did prioritize work. Built 42 properties while she built a relationship with a con artist, living off credit cards and broken promises. Leonard's jaw tightened. You investigated him. Of course I did. Due diligence. Same thing I do before any business partnership. I leaned forward. Jasper Crane owes $47,000 in child support, Leonard. His business is failing. He's being evicted from his office space. Simone wasn't having an affair with a successful man who appreciated her. She was being played by someone who saw a wealthy woman with access to family money. Leonard closed his eyes. She said he makes her feel alive, that he listens to her dreams. He listens to her bank account. I kept my voice steady. I've got copies of text messages where he's asking her for loans for his business. $5,000 here, $8,000 there. She's given him at least $23,000 from our joint accounts that I can prove. Jesus, Leonard whispered. I'm not trying to hurt your daughter. I continued. But I'm not going to pretend she didn't make choices that violated everything we built together. The trust has provisions for this exact situation. Provisions you insisted on. I never thought we'd actually use them. Leonard looked at me finally. I thought they were just guardrails. Theoretical protection. Guardrails are theoretical until someone runs off the road. I met his gaze. She ran off the road, Leonard. Told me to get out of my own house so she could be with him. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. Leonard stood, walked to the window, looked out of the parking lot. The trust board meets Tuesday. I'll be voting to restore her beneficiary status with conditions. Mandatory counseling, supervised access to funds, periodic reviews. That's your right as a trustee, I said. And you'll vote to permanently revoke her status. Not a question. I'll vote to uphold the covenant violations as written. Yes. Harold Patterson will side with the legal interpretation, which means you win. Leonard's voice was flat. My daughter loses access to everything her family built. No, I corrected quietly. Your daughter already lost that when she chose someone else. The trust is just acknowledging reality. Leonard turned, and I saw something I'd never seen before in his eyes. Defeat. You're a harder man than I thought, Griffin. You taught me to be hard when it mattered. You said protecting assets meant having the spine to enforce boundaries, even when it hurt. I was talking about business threats, not my own daughter. Funny thing about principles, Leonard. They don't change based on who's violating them. He walked to the door, paused with his hand on the knob. Lydia and Owen are caught in the middle of this. They are. And they're old enough to understand what their mother did and why it has consequences. Leonard opened the door, stood in the doorway. She's going to fight this. I know. It's going to get ugly. It already is. He left without another word. I stood at the window watching him walk to his Lexus, shoulders bent, moving like a man who just buried something precious. My phone rang. Lydia. Dad. Her voice was careful, controlled. I need to hear your side. Mom says you're being cruel. That you're using money to punish her for falling out of love. Can you come to Portland this weekend? I asked. I'll show you everything. Every document, every provision, every choice that led us here. Silence then. Okay. Saturday morning. Thank you, sweetheart. After she hung up, I sat in the quiet apartment and thought about Leonard's defeated expression, about Simone's tears that I hadn't seen yet, but knew were coming, about my children being forced to choose sides in a war their mother started. This wasn't victory, but it wasn't defeat either. It was something harder. It was being right at the cost of everything comfortable. Lydia arrived Saturday morning with 2 coffees and the wary expression of someone entering a battlefield without knowing which side held the mines. My daughter looked like her mother, same sharp features and careful eyes, but she moved like me, deliberate and measuring. Dad, she said, handing me a coffee. Mom called me 6 times yesterday. She's staying at a hotel because she says she can't access house accounts. Sit down, I replied. I'll show you everything. For the next hour, I walked her through the trust documents, the behavioral covenants, the email exchanges between Simone and Jasper. Showed her the bank withdrawals, the credit card statements, the messages about using family money to finance their future. Lydia read in silence, her coffee going cold. When she finally looked up, her eyes were wet but her voice was steady. How long have you known? Owen told me 3 weeks ago. He saw them together in Eugene. Owen knew before me. Something flickered across her face. Hurt, maybe. He happened to see them. It wasn't about who knew first, Lydia. It was about what to do with the information. She stood, walked to the window, arms crossed. Mom says you're being vindictive. That you built this trap and waited for her to step into it. I built protection 25 years ago with your grandfather. Protection against exactly this kind of betrayal. Your mother stepped into it by choice, not because I led her there. Lydia turned. She says she loves him. That Jasper makes her feel alive in ways you never did. Jasper Crane owes $47,000 in child support, I said quietly. He's being evicted from his office. His business is failing. Your mother didn't fall in love with a successful man who appreciates her. She fell for a con who saw access to money. My daughter's face went pale. You investigated him. I protect what's mine. That includes you and Owen, even if it means showing you ugly truths about your mother's judgment. Lydia sat back down, picked up the background check on Jasper. Read through it slowly. When she finished, she just stared at the papers like they might rearrange themselves into something less damning. What happens now? She asked finally. Tuesday, the trust board votes. Your grandfather will vote to restore your mother's beneficiary status with conditions. I'll vote to maintain the suspension. Harold Patterson will vote by legal precedent, which means I win. And Mom gets nothing. Mom gets her personal income, her car, her freedom. She doesn't get access to family assets she violated covenants to lose. I leaned forward. Lydia, I need you to understand something. This isn't about revenge. It's about consequences. If we don't enforce boundaries, they become suggestions. Your mother needs to learn that choices matter. Lydia wiped her eyes, but her voice stayed controlled. Owen's flying in Monday. He wants to talk to both of you together. I'll meet with him, but not with your mother present. Not yet. She's going to fight this, Lydia said. She's already talking to attorneys about challenging the trust structure. Let her fight. The structure is solid. Leonard and I built it to withstand exactly this kind of challenge. I reached across, took my daughter's hand. I know this is hard. I know you love your mother. Nothing about this trust situation changes that you're her daughter. But it changes that she's your wife, Lydia said softly. That changed the moment she brought another man into our home and told me to apologize to him. Owen showed up Monday afternoon, still wearing his University of Oregon hoodie, looking younger than 22 and older than he should. My son had his mother's dark hair and my build, solid and grounded. Dad, he said, dropping his backpack by the door. We need to talk about what I didn't tell you. That sentence made my chest tighten. What do you mean? Owen sat on the couch, hands clasped between his knees. When I saw Mom with Jasper and Eugene, it wasn't the first time. I saw them 6 months before that. In Portland, at a restaurant near campus when I came home for spring break. The room tilted slightly. 6 months before you told me. I didn't know what to do. Owen's voice was raw. I was 21, Dad. How do you tell your father that your mother is cheating? I kept hoping I was wrong, that maybe they were just friends, that it would stop. I sat across from him, trying to keep my voice level. Why tell me 3 weeks ago instead of 6 months ago? Because I saw them again in Eugene, and this time they were talking about leaving, about starting over together. Mom said she was tired of living a half-life, that she deserved happiness. Owen looked up, and his eyes were my eyes, same color, same intensity. She was planning to leave you, Dad. Not just have an affair, but actually leave. I couldn't let you be blindsided. The weight of it settled over me. 6 months of knowing, 6 months of carrying that burden alone. Owen, you should have told me immediately. I know. I'm sorry. I was trying to protect everyone and ended up protecting no one. He pulled out his phone, opened it, handed it to me. There's something else. Last week, Mom called me, asked if I'd testify at the trust hearing that you were emotionally abusive, that you controlled her with money and isolated her from friends. What did you say? I told her no. I told her what she did was wrong, and I wouldn't lie for her. Owen's voice strengthened. Then she said if I didn't support her, I was choosing your money over my mother. That's manipulation, I said. I know. That's when I realized she's not the person I thought she was. Or maybe she is, and I just never saw it clearly. Owen took his phone back. Lydia called me after meeting with you. She's struggling, Dad, trying to balance loving Mom with seeing what Mom actually did. What about you? I asked. How are you balancing it? Owen met my eyes. I'm not. I saw what I saw. Mom cheated, brought that guy into our family, and now she's trying to make you the villain for protecting what you built. I can't balance that. I can only choose truth. Something in my chest loosened hearing him say it. I never wanted you kids pulled into this. We were pulled in the moment Mom made her choices, Owen replied. You didn't do that. She did. We sat in silence for a moment, father and son, navigating wreckage neither of us created. Tuesday's the trust board meeting, I said finally. Your mother will likely try to contact you, maybe pressure you to intervene with Leonard. Let her try, Owen said, and his voice carried a hardness I'd never heard before. I'm done protecting her from consequences she earned. The conference room at Patterson Associates smelled like leather and old money. 3 trustees sat at a mahogany table that had witnessed decades of family disputes. Harold Patterson, 71, senior partner, presided from the head. Leonard sat to his right, looking like he'd aged 5 years and 5 days. I sat across from them. Simone arrived with her attorney, Sharon Vickers, a sharp woman in her 50s known for aggressive family law tactics. They took seats at the far end, Simone's eyes avoiding mine completely. Harold opened the leather folder in front of him. We're here to review the beneficiary status suspension triggered by Article 7, Section 3 Covenant Violations. Mrs. Harding, you have 15 minutes to present your position. Sharon stood. My client admits to an extramarital relationship, but contests that this constitutes grounds for permanent beneficiary removal. The trust language is punitive and was created during a different era of the marriage. Mrs. Harding has been a faithful partner for 25 years prior to this relationship, which occurred during a period of emotional neglect by Mr. Harding. The trust language doesn't have expiration dates, I said calmly. Covenants apply equally whether violations occur in year 1 or year 25. Sharon continued. Mrs. Harding is prepared to undergo counseling, accept supervised disbursements, and demonstrate commitment to reconciliation. She requests restoration of beneficiary status with reasonable conditions. Mrs. Harding, Harold said, looking at Simone directly, did you or did you not order your husband to vacate the primary residence? Simone's voice was small. I was emotional. I said things I regret. That's not what I asked. Did you order him to leave? Yes, she whispered. And the phrase you used, according to Mr. Harding's statement, was get out until you apologize to my lover. Is that accurate? Simone looked at her attorney, who nodded slightly. Yes. Harold made notes. Mr. Cross, your position? Leonard cleared his throat. My daughter made a terrible mistake. But she's still my daughter, still the mother of my grandchildren. I vote to restore beneficiary status with mandatory counseling, supervised access to trust funds, and quarterly reviews for 2 years. Mr. Harding. I opened my folder, slid documents across the table. Bank statements, emails, text messages. These show systematic deception spanning 14 months. $43,000 withdrawn and spent on an affair. Messages discussing using trust funds to finance a future with another man. This wasn't a mistake. It was calculated betrayal. Sharon started to object, but Harold raised his hand. I'll review the evidence. Mr. Harding, your vote. I vote to maintain the suspension. The covenant violations are clear and documented. Restoration would render the trust provisions meaningless. Harold studied the documents for 10 minutes while the room sat in tense silence. Finally, he looked up. Based on the evidence presented and the plain language of Article 7, Section 3, I vote to maintain the beneficiary status suspension. The covenant violations are substantiated and meet the threshold for enforcement. Mrs. Harding's beneficiary rights are hereby suspended indefinitely pending future review, contingent on material changes in circumstances. Simone's face went white. What does that mean? It means, Harold said not unkindly, that you no longer have access to trust disbursements, trust properties, or trust accounts. Your husband retains full control as primary grantor and sole active beneficiary. Sharon stood quickly. We'll be filing an appeal to challenge the trust structure itself on grounds of unconscionability. That's your right, Harold replied. This board has made its decision according to established legal framework. Leonard stood without looking at me, gathered his papers, and walked out. Simone followed with Sharon, her shoulders shaking. I sat alone in the conference room afterward, staring at the papers that had just dismantled 26 years of marriage with legal precision. Harold approached, put a hand on my shoulder. This was the right decision legally, he said quietly. Whether it's the right decision personally, only time will tell. The house was empty when I returned Wednesday afternoon. Simone had moved out completely, taking her clothes and personal items, but leaving everything else untouched. Like she was erasing herself from the space without destroying what remained. I walked through rooms that felt different now. The kitchen where she'd screamed at me. The living room where Jasper had smirked. The bedroom we'd shared for 26 years. Now just furniture and memories. My phone rang. Private investigator, Dennis Cole, the man I'd hired 3 weeks ago to document everything. Griffin, Dennis said, his voice carrying bad news. I've got something you need to see. Can you meet me? 30 minutes later, I sat in his car outside a downtown hotel. Dennis handed me an envelope. Jasper Crane, Dennis said. Real name Jason Caldwell. Changed it legally 4 years ago after his second divorce. He's got warrants in California for fraud, owes child support in 2 states, and his brand consulting business is a shell company. No clients, no revenue, no legitimate operations. I opened the envelope. Court documents, arrest records, documented scams going back 12 years. This wasn't just a bad boyfriend. This was a career criminal. There's more, Dennis continued. I found communications between Jasper and his brother. They were planning to marry Simone, get control of trust assets, then divorce her and split the proceeds. This was a long con from the beginning. The weight of it settled over me. Simone hadn't just made a bad choice. She'd been targeted, manipulated, used by someone who saw vulnerability and exploited it professionally. Does she know? I asked. No idea. But you should probably tell her before she gets in deeper. I drove to the hotel where Simone was staying. Texted her. We need to talk. It's important. Her reply came fast. If this is about the trust, my attorney said not to communicate. Me, it's about Jasper. You're in danger. 10 minutes later, she met me in the hotel lobby, looking exhausted and defensive. What do you want, Griffin? I handed her the envelope. Jasper Crane isn't who he says he is. His real name is Jason Caldwell. He's wanted for fraud in California, and he was planning to con you from the beginning. Simone opened the envelope, read through the documents. Her face went from skeptical to horrified to broken in the span of 5 minutes. No, she whispered. He loves me. He loves your access to money. Read the messages between him and his brother. They planned the whole thing. She sank into a lobby chair, papers scattered around her. I destroyed my marriage for a con artist. Yes, I said simply, because there was no kind way to say it. What do I do now? Her voice was small, lost. You file a police report. You cut all contact with him. You figure out how to rebuild your life without the safety net you violated your way out of. Simone looked up at me, and for the first time in months, I saw the woman I'd married. Scared, real, without pretense. I'm so sorry, Griffin. I know, but sorry doesn't undo covenant violations. Sorry doesn't restore trust. It just means you finally understand what you lost. I left her in that lobby, surrounded by evidence of her own terrible judgment, and drove back to the empty house that was now just mine. 2 weeks after the trust board meeting, I received a call from Detective Sarah Brennan with Portland PD's Fraud Division. Jasper Crane, real name Jason Caldwell, had been arrested in Seattle attempting to board a flight to Mexico using a fake passport. We found evidence linking him to multiple scams, Detective Brennan said. Your wife's case is part of a larger investigation. He targeted at least 6 women over the past decade, all with significant family wealth. I sat in my office at the house that was finally just mine again, looking at property development plans I'd been too distracted to focus on for months. What happens now? He's facing federal charges. Wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy. Your ex-wife will need to testify. Ex-wife. The word still felt strange, even though the divorce papers had been filed 3 days after the trust board meeting. Simone hadn't contested anything, signed everything her attorney put in front of her with the mechanical compliance of someone who'd stopped fighting. Leonard called that afternoon. His voice sounded older, tired in a way that wasn't just physical. Griffin, he said, I owe you an apology. You were protecting what we built, while I was trying to protect my daughter from consequences she needed to face. You were being a father, I replied. That's not something to apologize for. Simone filed charges against Jasper. Or Jason, whatever his real name is. She's cooperating with the federal investigation. Leonard paused. She asked me to tell you she understands now. Understands what you were trying to protect her from. That's good. But understanding doesn't change the outcome. No, Leonard agreed. It doesn't. The trust provisions stand. She's moved in with her sister in Sacramento, trying to rebuild her credit and her life. I looked out the window at the garden Simone had designed, the stone path I'd laid, the life we'd built together that had fractured along fault lines neither of us had noticed until it was too late. How are Lydia and Owen? Leonard asked. Managing. Lydia's back in Seattle, focused on her residency. Owen's finishing his senior year. They've both been to counseling, working through what this did to their idea of family. I paused. They still talk to their mother. I made sure they understood that my issues with Simone don't dictate their relationship with her. That's generous. That's being a father. I echoed his earlier words. They need their mother, even if I don't need my wife anymore. After Leonard hung up, I walked through the house room by room. Some spaces I'd already started changing, removing memories that hurt to look at. Others I left untouched, not ready to erase everything we'd been. My phone buzzed. Text from David Rosen, my attorney. Divorce finalized. Papers being filed with the court today. 26 years of marriage, reduced to legal documents and property settlements. Simone got her car, her personal accounts, her freedom. I got the house, the properties, the business empire I'd spent 3 decades building. The victory felt hollow, but it felt necessary. Like surgery that saved the patient, but left scars that would never fully fade. 8 months later, I stood in the lobby of the newly opened Griffin Harding Community Development Center in Northeast Portland, the neighborhood where I'd grown up in that 2-bedroom apartment. The center provided small business consulting, financial literacy classes, and startup grants for entrepreneurs from underserved communities. Leonard stood beside me, looking healthier than he had in months. Lydia and Owen flanked my other side, both of them smiling genuinely for the first time since the trust board meeting. "Dad," Lydia said, squeezing my arm, "this is incredible. You turned everything that happened into something that helps people." I looked at the families touring the facility, the small business owners attending workshops, the young entrepreneurs who reminded me of my 23-year-old self, hungry and determined. Your grandfather always said protecting wealth meant using it for something beyond yourself. Took me losing a marriage to figure out what that meant. Owen was talking to a group of college students about property management careers, animated and passionate. He'd changed majors from business to urban planning, wanting to build communities instead of just buildings. The divorce had clarified something for him about what mattered. Leonard pulled me aside while the ribbon-cutting ceremony was being prepared. "Simone sent something for you," he said, handing me an envelope. "Asked me to give it to you today." Inside was a single card. Her handwriting, careful and measured. "I'm sorry I couldn't see what you were building until I destroyed what we had. I hope you build something beautiful from the ruins. S. No requests, no justifications, no attempts at reconciliation. Just acknowledgement and release." "How is she?" I asked Leonard. "Working as an event coordinator in Sacramento. Small firm, nothing prestigious. She's in therapy, paying off the debts Jasper left her with. It'll take years." Leonard looked at the community center, at the people streaming through doors I'd funded and opened. "She knows what she lost. Finally understands that trust isn't just emotional, it's structural. Break the structure, lose the foundation." The ceremony started. Local officials spoke about community investment, about the importance of supporting local entrepreneurs, about generational wealth being built through education and opportunity. They thanked me for the endowment, for the vision, for turning personal pain into public good. I didn't speak. Didn't need to. The building spoke for itself. Afterward, Lydia approached with a man I didn't recognize. Mid-30s, genuine smile, introducing himself as Dr. Ryan Merchant, a fellow resident at her hospital. "Dad," Lydia said, her cheeks slightly pink, "Ryan and I have been seeing each other for a few months. I wanted you to meet him." We shook hands. Ryan's grip was firm, his eyes direct. "Mr. Harding, your daughter talks about you constantly. About how you taught her that principles matter even when they cost everything. Sometimes especially when they cost everything," I replied, studying the man who was clearly important to my daughter. "What kind of doctor are you, Ryan?" "Emergency medicine. I deal with trauma." "Then you'll understand my family," I said, and Lydia laughed, the sound lighter than I'd heard in months. As the sun set over Portland, casting orange light across the city I'd spent 30 years helping build, I stood with my children and my former father-in-law, watching people pour through doors that represented something better than what I'd lost. Something earned through pain, but built with purpose. My phone buzzed. Property development proposal for a new project in Beaverton. Investors ready. My team asking for approval to proceed. I typed back, "Let's build it." Because that's what I did. I built. Through betrayal and divorce. Through trust meetings and legal battles. Through the collapse of one foundation and the construction of another. I built, protected what mattered, and moved forward. 26 years of marriage hadn't taught me how to love without conditions. But they taught me how to build structures that survived when love failed. And in the end, maybe that was the more valuable lesson.